It's with my great pleasure that I welcome Sky Racing presenter and host Lizzie Jelfs. Good morning, Lizzie. Thanks for coming on. How are you going this morning?
Yes, thank you very much, Cody, for having me. Yeah, it's pretty good this morning. We've just finished Thoroughbred Weekly, so it's a conclusion of a long week of preparation and getting ready for the races, and then reviewing the races on Sunday. So looking forward to next week. Actually, I always look forward to noms coming out tomorrow for the Wednesday meeting, and then therefore going on to Saturday as well. Looking forward to finding some more winners.
Yep. Now, look, your story is a fascinating one. I'm really looking forward to hearing about your journey to where you are today as a presenter for Sky. But I've got to congratulate you firstly on your great mounting yard coverage that you provide each and every week on Sky Throughbred Central for the punters at home. Who'll be very happy people with some of the horses you've tipped out of the yard over the years. Now, talking about that, casting your mind back to last year in particular, where you created a real big buzz throughout your fellow colleagues at Sky, but also in the horse racing community, where you really managed to find some good winners out of the mounting yard. Obviously, White Moss was one of the famous ones in the Millie Fox at 61, Top Striker at 51, and then Samadout in the Wink Stakes at $41 with your, as you like to call it, the expert eye. How satisfying is it for you when you get those results? Like, does it give you that bit more of confidence?
Yeah, look, it gives me a great satisfaction, not only personally, but just also, that I feel like I'm doing my job and helping people find winners. It's a great satisfaction being able to share my knowledge, I suppose, over the years that I've been able to gain through working with racehorses, and transfer that into a punting aspect, which is something that I never really even thought about it until I got involved at racing.com and then Sky afterwards, how important wagering was for racing, and now I can really see how important it is. So it gives me great satisfaction to be able to give a different perspective and a different edge to people who are having a bet. I often get feedback with people saying, "Oh, I found that on form, and then when you tipped it, I had more on it." So that's a great indication of, I just feel like I'm part of a tool for punters to be able to give them, that final tick off to say, yep, I'm right, or yes, go for it, have a bit more on, or oh, I never really thought of that horse, but now I can see it's going to get a great run. It looks well, and I think what Lizzie's saying is true, so I'm going to have something on it. So great satisfaction all round, and we're really fortunate to be able to, like you said, have a few big price winners, but also I've been able to tick off horses that are shorter in the market that look well, and sometimes they don't look well. It can also happen the other way around. So yeah, it's a great job. I'm really lucky.
Yeah, definitely. Now, do you have a process of things you look for in a horse appearance, and like obviously their behaviour in the mounting yard to suggest to you that they're in peak condition on a race day?
Yeah. So basically the checklist. I get asked this question a lot. The checklist is if you're looking at a horse, you want to see the behaviour is normal to what it usually parades. So if it's a hot horse and it gets hot in the yard like a Conte Hero, you know that that's a normal process for it. If it's a horse that's relaxed and quiet all the time and it's not showing those signs today and it's a bit above itself and it's at the end of its preparation, then you would put that down as a negative. So behaviour is a good one. Obviously, coat, you always hear me banging on about their coat, but that's so important because it indicates how far they are in a preparation. It indicates how healthy they are inside. It indicates whether they're having a good day or a bad day. Sometimes they can be a bit dehydrated. You can see that in their coat. You can see a lot of health issues in their coat, and that's such a important factor when you're looking at horses in the parade. The third one would be the way that they move. A walk is so important. When people purchase $1 million yearlings off of a walk, so walk is a huge factor for looking at horses. If they've got a really big, long stride, you know that that's going to transcend to their gallop stride. If sometimes you're seeing a change in their action, then that can be an indication that maybe things haven't been going as well at home as they have done in previous runs. So there's a lot you can judge off of those few different areas. I guess if I were to give advice on how you can look at horses in the yard on a race day, I feel that you have to build a profile on horses. Really important to know your horses. So right from the start, you start building a profile and noting down what their behaviour, their normal behaviour is when they run a peak performance or run at a good performance, and then you can work off of that. So that's it's all very well me telling you what to look for, but it's also important to know that you have to know the animal each and every time they step out.
Yeah, of course. So it's interesting that you touched on the way horses walk there, because speaking to a couple of trainers over the last week or so, I've really noticed with a lot of the new purchases that they really do get quite taken by the way that they present and the way they walk. Like, I was speaking to Matt Kamani in particular, and he was saying that there was a horse he's just picked up recently, and he had to buy it because of the way it looked. He said he just had to get it. He said he probably paid a little bit over, but just the way that it presented, he just had to take it. So it's really interesting that that does play a big part into things.
Yeah. Well, when you look at a horse and the way they walk, they often mimic the way that they're going to gallop. It's the same gait. So that's why a lot of people put so much emphasis on the way that horses move. And a great mover is so important. It means that they're mechanically very sound. It means they're going to have an economical stride. So that's all part of the process that you want to see in a horse when they're at the track. You often see a lot of people who watch trials and they're saying, it didn't run time and it looked a trial, it didn't win the trial, but the way that this horse moves, the action that it possesses, that's what makes me think this horse is going to be a nice racehorse. So walk and gallop and stride and action is a huge part of how a horse is going to perform.
Yeah, yeah. Now, look, from the meeting yesterday at Rose Hill, it was quite a great meeting, obviously being the Hawkesbury Gold Cup day. Is there a few horses that you really liked the look of yesterday and you're looking to now follow into previous starts, or do you just sort of take it as they come, like you just sort of get there on race day and you go, right, that's the horses I'm looking out for, or do you just like go off what you see?
A bit of both. There's always horses that you want to follow going forward. For instance, yesterday with Sweet Scandal, I have, from the start of this preparation, she's returned in an immaculate fashion, and she's been unlucky with draws and whatnot and runs and things like that. So she was one that I was really looking forward to seeing, and if she looked well, even though she wasn't drawn well yesterday, and I didn't see the change of tactics until late, she was one that I had to. She was in my list of horses that I wanted to follow. So there is definitely horses that you pick up along the way that you put into your black book, and you want to see them next start and see that they are looking exactly the same way that they've had excuses. So from yesterday's meeting, I think you could definitely follow Tactical Advantage. I know he was the winner, but I think that race is actually quite a good race to follow. Yeah. Of the others, Resin is a horse I want to follow going forward. Nikki's Gold, if she finds the right race, she's certainly one I would follow going forward as well. So there's a few that you can play around with it. As long as they're in the right race and it's a winnable race and they get the tick off, they'd be winning next start.
All right, excellent. Thank you for that information there. Now, look, moving on to actually just quickly on a touch on, is there any horses obviously that you're looking forward to in the spring? I know it's quite a while away, but is there any horse in particular that you're really looking forward to seeing back in the yard again?
There's not actually one that I can think of off the top of my head that I'm looking forward to seeing going forward. I guess I love the sprint. For some reason, I always love the sprint races, which is something that I've always liked, the faster pace races, and I love the sprinting types of horses. I'm looking forward to. There is one horse I'm actually looking forward to seeing what he does, because I've liked him at the start of this preparation. He's a horse called Not an Option, who's trained by Tony Pike, and I'm looking forward to seeing where he ends up, because he's a really interesting looking horse. He's quite strong and physically he's very sprinter and powerful like, and he ran in 1100. He also ran in the Champagne, and I'm just very interested to see where he's placed all the way through his campaign. Now, Land is the other horse that I'm really looking forward to seeing. He won that race that Not Auction ran third in. So they're probably two horses I'm looking forward to seeing progress. But yeah, it's been an interesting carnival. A lot of horses have been retiring. So we're looking forward to, I guess, finding that next emerging star. And I suppose that's where the 3-year-olds will come into play.
Yeah, exactly, definitely right. Now, look, moving on to your life and your journey to where you are today. Look, you grew up in England, in Oxford. You didn't grow up in a racing family. So, what sparked your passion and love for horses?
It's just in me. I loved animals and I love horses, and I can honestly tell you it's the one part of my life that I've always known exactly what I wanted to do. And I didn't know what discipline I wanted to be in, but I knew I wanted to be around horses because they just make me happy and they're just a fantastic animal to be around. And I absolutely love them. And yeah, I honestly don't know how I ever thought that I wouldn't be involved in horses because I've been around them my whole life. But through my parents, encouraging me to maybe not go into the horse route, I found my way into racing. They wanted me to obviously go and do something a little bit different. They sort of thought that I could carry on with horses as a hobby, but not necessarily it be my career. But I managed to make a career out of it somehow. now they're pretty happy with it. But yeah, that's what I guess going forward that I want to be able to do with the younger generation is to show that racing isn't just an in-between job. It's actually a great career, and there's wonderful opportunities all across the board in racing, and it's a very welcoming community and welcoming industry for younger people as well.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you managed to secure your first opportunity with boutique jumps trainer by the name of Charlie Edgerton, or Edgy as you like to call him.
Yep,
How crucial was that first opportunity for you?
it was everything. Yeah, everything. Really, I've never told anyone this story how I ended up meeting him, but was I emailed through to the British Racing School to get in touch with a trainer, and they said to me, "Here's a trainer's list. Go through this trainer's list and see if you can find someone to go to." And I went through the list, and I saw there was a lady called Jenny Pittman who was a huge jump trainer, and I thought I'd love to go to her because I knew of her training and some of the great jump horses when I was growing up. And I called, and they were very busy, and they didn't really have any time for me, so I've sort of moved on to the next person. And it was just a case of me going down the list with my finger, and I landed on Lord Huntingdon, and he was retiring. So he was retiring. So I went down. I think I went up. I went and found Edgy, and I said to Lord Huntingdon, "What do you think about Charlie Edgerton?" He said, "Oh, he's a great guy. Contact him." And by contacting him, he literally just answered the phone and said, "Sure, you can come down anytime, do your 2 weeks work experience," and away we went. And he's been instrumental in why I ended up coming to Australia and why I ended up going to Lindsay Park, because they are great friends. And I guess that's been my story ever since. I went to Edgy, went to Lindsay Park, and that's been the rest is history.
Yeah, well, like I said, luckily for you, with Edgy, he obviously had a relationship with Lindsay Park. So you then made the decision to pack up, move to Australia to work with Lindsay Park. How difficult was that decision to take that leap of faith and pursue an opportunity here in Australia?
At the time, I was very young and naive, and I only thought I was coming for 12 months. So it was easy at the time. And then once I actually got here, it was a lot more difficult than I expected it to be. And I basically did a lot of growing up when I came over here. But the one factor about me is I love what I do, and I loved, as soon as I got here, I loved racing. I loved being around the horses. I just couldn't believe how amazing the opportunities were in Australia for anyone, and I just kept seeing opportunities come in front of me, and each time I thought I was going to go home, there was something else that would entice me to stay, whether it be a trip to Brisbane with horses off to Tasmania with horses, or the Sydney Carnival, or Queensland. It was all about the next opportunity and the next adventure, and that's what kept me here. And yeah, I've been here ever since. So it was difficult. It was initially quite daunting, but it's become my life now. So I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you obviously then impressed, work your way up, and then you became a travelling four-person and managed the Lindsay Park Satellite Stable at Randwick, where you also contributed as a track rider for Hall of Fame trainer David Hayes. So how did that opportunity come about? Did they just sort of say to you that they liked what you were doing and they thought you could do that job for them, or did you more pursue it on them?
Well, what happened with Lindsay Park, Tony McAvoy was training initially when I first started, and then David Hayes came back from Hong Kong and he took the reins over from Tony. So it was just a transition for me going to speaking to David, and then David ended up saying, "Would you like to go to Sydney?" But I rode track work right from the start. That was basically my biggest asset, was being able to ride horses. So I rode right from the moment I came to Australia. I rode track work and rode many good horses, and was part of the Lindsay Park and David Hayes team for 17 years. So the satellite stable was something I really wanted to do. I wanted to be part of, and we had a great run. We won the Golden Slipper. We won the Metropolitan with Torquay. We had a fantastic run all the way through for about 6 years of really decent horses coming up, running really well in some of the top races, and it was a great fun, really enjoyable part of my career with Lindsay Park.
Yeah, well, interesting. You just touched on that. That was part of my next sort of question. You obviously got to work with some amazing horses, like you've just mentioned, with the likes of Fields of Omar, Dubai, Eagle Falls, and then obviously we look at the Great Nakoni, who actually you went back home with into the UK at Royal Ascot. Describe that adventure for us when you were, I guess, told that you were going to take Nakoni back to Royal Ascot.
Yeah, it was. I almost felt like I'd done everything I could possibly do when I was able to take a serious Group 1 horse back to the UK and compete at Royal Ascot. And it was an incredible experience. I'd just finished travelling with Eagle Falls. I'd been in Dubai, and then I'd been in Singapore afterwards, and then I came back and we shipped out to the UK with Nakoni, and it was an incredible experience riding. He's one of the best sprinters I've had anything to do with, and he's shown that he's an absolutely phenomenal stallion by siring Nature Strip. Who is arguably the best sprinter going around in the world at the moment. And I just feel that when you're riding him up Warren Hill, and the way that he moves, he's such a beautiful mover, and he's such a fantastic horse to be around. He was a real gentleman. It was something that it was a pinch myself moment, and I still reminisce and look back on all of these experiences that I've had with these horses. But he's definitely one. That overseas trip was incredible, and unfortunately things didn't go to plan. He managed to run fourth in the King's Stand, but I think that about that time he was starting to think about the ladies and getting ready to stud, and he showed that at stud he's probably a better stallion than he showed on the racetrack.
Yeah. Now, obviously, they're looking at it. You obviously got the opportunity to go overseas on multiple occasions with Lindsay Park. I guess nowadays we still see a lot of our horses traveling overseas, but not as many. How sort of, if you were to look at it, would you encourage more trainers to try and take that leap of faith and take the horses overseas? I know that the prize money is really good here, and that's why racing has really flourished here in Australia. But obviously that prestige of going over Royal Ascot. I personally when you just touched on Nature Strip, I was really looking forward to seeing if they were going to take him over there and how he would perform going up the straight at Ascot. But that looks like it obviously can't happen now with the conditions that we're in. But what sort of things do you really sort of want to see more horses going overseas from Australia?
I would love to see it happen more often. Selfishly, I want to obviously see the best horses come to Australia, but what I want to see is it be more of a global sport, which it is a very much a global sport, but I mean, more of a thought that if we've got the best sprinters, let's take them to Royal Ascot and perform on that stage. But then I also want to see them come here. I want to see the international horses take on the Everest, the best of the Everest contenders. It's a bit of a catch-22 because I know that a lot of punters don't necessarily like the internationals coming over because it's not exposed form and it's not really good for wagering. But we've got to think of the global outlook of it all. We want to still make it a global sport, and we want to be able to include all those other nations. And of course, you want to you stack yourself up against the best sprinter in Europe, and you want to see if you've got that crown. I mean, I think it's a shame that we didn't see Winks overseas. It's just one of those things. But I've spoken to a lot of people from the UK, and they have told me the best day that they've ever had on a race course was Royal Ascot when Black Caviar raced. And that's not even a horse that is their own. That's an Australian horse winning. And they said that that's the best day they've ever had at Royal Ascot. So that goes to show it can make some absolutely incredible memories. And next year for Nature Strip, we'll make sure we get there for that one.
Yeah, definitely. Now, obviously, you then had a bit of a tough period when Lindsay Park decided to close their Sydney stable. You just had your first child at that point. What was your sort of thought process when that happened?
Well, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where my next move was going to be. So Lindsay Park have always been wonderful, and they've always been very supportive. But they offered me the job in Melbourne, which was to run the Melbourne stables that Ben Hayes now runs. So I headed back to Melbourne and started running the Melbourne stable, which was always a dream to be able to run one of the biggest parts of the operation. And we didn't have the cattle at the time, horse-wise, but we certainly were starting to build up our stock and put in the foundations for what Lindsay Park is again today, which is a successful operation. So we had Euroa was just started up, Lindsay Park in Adelaide had been closed, and Melbourne was really important to be running to have those horses that were up and racing, being running out of those stables. So yeah, it was a difficult time because I didn't quite know where I was heading, but anyone who's had any children know that having kids put into your life can also pose a few challenges that you don't necessarily think about before them.
Yeah. You then were lucky enough to be presented an opportunity in television, and if my memory serves you correctly, it wasn't so much your thought process; it was more something that David suggested to you. So what? Just explain
right.
that situation for me.
Yeah, David just called me one day and said, I've got you a job. And I said, oh, okay, what's that? And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I got to do now? Because he'd often call with ideas, and he'd say, we're going to go back to Melbourne, or we're going to go here, we're going to do this. Or he's full of great ideas. That's why he's such a successful trainer and businessman. He'd been having a chat with a good friend of his and an owner of the stable, Scott Perrin, who was running racing.com, and they were looking for someone to be able to talk about horses in the mounting yard, pretty much exactly the same as what Jenny Chapman does in Hong Kong. That's what they were looking for. And David thought that I would be perfect for the job, put my name forward, and basically told Scott that I would definitely do it, and that just give me a call and I'll be down there. So I followed through. My husband, Ryan, who was very supportive at the time, we just had our second child, he said to me, you should go and give it a go. You'll be really good at it, and you've been doing this your whole life. It's nothing different. So I headed off down to Melbourne and started doing some, wasn't even media training. It was just sort of showing what it was like to have an earpiece in your ear and what you were looking for and things you would say. And within 2 weeks, I think I was on camera within 2 weeks, and away I went. And yeah, it was a pretty daunting experience, I must say, but it was great to feel out of my comfort zone and really push myself, because it was something that I never thought that I would ever end up doing, but it was something that I'm obviously have been in training for a long time because of what I've done previously.
Yeah, exactly. you obviously, like you mentioned, you went and worked for racing.com as your first job for a period of just under a year before moving back to Sydney. And you obviously landed the role you've now got with Sky. Um, how how was your time at racing.com, and what was it quite important for you to move back to Sydney, considering obviously you just had your second child, um, and then you obviously just after you established your broadcast ability at racing.com?
Yeah, racing.com was excellent. I loved it there, and I look at the station that they are now, and they've done a fantastic job, everyone around them, with building it up into such a strong brand. And I must admit, have I had to move on from racing.com to Sky. My family are always and will always be my number one priority, and moving to Sydney, or going back to Sydney was something that I needed to do. It was just too difficult commuting down to Melbourne each time, and I guess I just had to make that difficult decision. Do I leave somewhere where I really enjoyed working, but do I upheave my family and move them to Melbourne, being, they're a young family, we didn't have any support around us. So it was a difficult decision, but fast forward, being at Sky, I've had some fantastic opportunities. I've worked with some of the best broadcasters going around. I have learned so much off of everyone who I've been able to work with, and I continue to learn. I'm never stopped. So yes, both places are, I feel, great stations, and really good at nurturing their talent. And there's plenty of people, if you're doing the wrong thing, they'll be able to tell you, to do it differently or to improve. Or we're all working at the same capacity to try and basically encourage people into racing, give people information about horses and betting, and how to have fun and make a bit of money on gambling.
Yes, yeah. Now, quite interesting, obviously, listening that you didn't obviously have the plans to come into the media. It was kind of put upon you. What sort of work did you have to go into to, I guess, develop your skills as you went, or did you just pick it up as you went? Did you find that you were just actually quite a natural at it?
I just picked it up as I went. I spoke about horses. I listened to a lot of Jenny Chapman when Scott Perrin spoke to me about it. I listened to a lot of Jenny Chapman talking about horses, and understood what she was saying. She would talk about what their overall look and how they're walking, and if it was normal for them. And I thought those are the important aspects of the knowledge that I need to be able to transcend. So that's when I started building profiles on each horse and knowing exactly how each horse paraded each time I saw them. So I found that I just picked up and honed my skills my own way, and hoped that that's what people wanted to know. I feel for someone who's having a bet, they want to know if this horse has improved, or if it stayed the same, or if it's gone backwards. They're three simple terms. You want to know if there's improvement, if it's just maintained how it looks, and if there's a sign of it maybe tapering off or it's gone backwards in a preparation. They're the three aspects that you really want to be able to convey. And by the way that I look at them, those checklists that I gave you earlier on, that's how you can tell. So yeah, it was just a way of talking about them. A lot of horse people can talk the way that I talk. It's just I get the opportunity to do it on TV.
Yeah. Now, obviously, looking at where you are now, looking back from where you started, did you ever imagine that you would have accomplished what you have in your broadcasting career?
I haven't thought about it really, no. I always do everything 110%. That's just the way I am. And I love this. I love the fact that I'm able to give back as well. I love the fact that you reached out to me and we got to do this interview. There's so much more that I want to be able to do. It's not necessarily personal that I want to be able to achieve, but more I want to be able to encourage people into racing. I want racing to be around for my children and their children, and I want it to be as strong as it is today. So I never really look back and look at personal achievements. I just want to be able to see racing in a positive light. I'm in this industry because I love horses, and I think that that's really important to to show that's why I do it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Now, I've got to ask you, you get the amazing opportunity to go and provide coverage at Royal Ascot for Sky Racing on Sky Thoroughbred Central. I look forward to it every single year. It's obviously such a good time of year, and like we were speaking about before, there's just something about, especially when we've got Australian horses over there around that time. There's just something so big about it. Like it really is real nice to get around. I found myself up every single night watching the coverage from start to finish. I just couldn't help myself. I just had to. Um, at the start of each year, what part of the year do you look forward to the most, considering you do get the chance to go to Royal Ascot?
Oh, that's the most difficult question. um, I do look forward to Royal Ascot. I do. It's one of my favourite meetings of the whole year. But I must admit, the spring in both Sydney and Melbourne has become another level.
Mm.
It really has gone to another level. With the Everest, with the fact that you've got racing in both states, that's absolutely fantastic. I think that it's really, the spring in both Sydney and Melbourne is something that I look forward to each and every year. And you've got it all. You've got the best sprinters. I mean, the Golden Eagle this year was an excellent race.
Yeah.
I'm not into all this sort of. I don't have an opinion on when people say pop-up races and things like that. I think if you can assemble the best horses going around, it's a wonderful, wonderful spectacle, and you can encourage people to talk about it, then that's what we aim to do. But yeah, I guess spring in Australia, and I'd have to say the summer months in the UK and Europe.
Yeah,
Can I say that?
yeah, you can. That is perfectly fine. Yeah, look, definitely, I must agree with you. I've always been of the opinion myself that both states having good racing on at the same time is not a bad thing. Obviously, you hear the argument of that some horses are split on where they are supposed to go. Jockeys are in different spots, but I don't think that's such a bad thing, because if anything, it'll actually give, I guess, jockeys who wouldn't normally get that type of opportunity to get a good opportunity in a big type of race. And same thing with trainers and horses, that it just gives them more options, which I actually think is a good thing. And like you mentioned, it comes around to springtime, and I guess, if you're in Sydney, you've still got things like the Everest to look forward to, and then you obviously got the Melbourne Cup, the Caulfield Cup, Cox Plate, etc. down here in Melbourne that you can watch on TV, and vice versa for us down here. If we're at a meeting at let's say I was at the Caulfield Guineas, you've still got the Everest on TV, and it's just such a big thing because everyone gets around the screen. So I actually think it's such a good thing personally.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that it's really important that the population that we have, we need to think about the fact that we're able to sustain two states with top class racing, and it's not diluting anyone's product. You can see how many people came to those huge crowds, but you're still getting huge crowds at all the Victorian race meetings, the Caulfield Cup, the Melbourne Cup, Cox Plate. You're still getting huge, big crowds, and the prestige of those races, you'll never be able to dilute that down. But there's got to be something that, Australia's progressive. It's a progressive country. People look at us from overseas. I've got a lot of friends from overseas, and they say Australian racing looks in such a good place because it's got it all. It's not only got the new concepts, but it's got the tradition as well. So I think all across the board, we're in a good place. We're obviously in a really, really tense time at the moment, and a really unfortunate time for a lot of people around the world. And we're very fortunate we're still racing, and long may that continue. But it's very uncertain times going forward. So the landscape's changing, but certainly the last 2 years have been very, very fruitful.
I'm going to move on into, I guess, how important is in your mind for racing to continue to expand and inspire people of all ages and all genders to develop a passion and become a part of this great sport of racing in some way. So, how important is it for you?
It's one of the most important parts of my job. I want to be able to show racing in a positive light. I think it can sometimes get a bit of a bad rap. We have to be progressive. We have to think about especially welfare is a very important aspect of racing. We need to make sure that that's one of the most important parts of what we do, and it is at the core of everything we do, whether it's looking looking after a horse post-racing, career post-racing, everything about welfare has to be at our core value, and then we must build and progress after that. So it's very, very important. Not only welfare, we need to encourage the younger generation and be welcoming and show them that how to get into racing, because it's sometimes a little bit hard to get into racing or know where to go to sort of feel part of it and to be educated. So these types of interviews that you're doing are great to show that it's easy to get in touch with people in racing, and they're quite good with their time, and they show that there's definitely a way of getting involved and being part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, speaking of inspiration, you are obviously the host of Women in Racing, which is a show on Sky Thoroughbred Central every Thursday, 9:30. For people who haven't seen it already, go and make sure you watch it. How did this show come about? Did you pitch the idea yourself, or did someone come to you saying that they wanted you to host the role?
I pitched it myself. I thought it would be lovely to be able to sit down with women throughout the sport and just have a chat, women to women. And there's so many amazing ladies out there who have achieved some incredible achievements, and I just really wanted to sit down and have a chat with them, and I thought it would be really nice to do it and just take people inside the inner sanctum, I suppose. And I know that I've got a good relationship with a lot of people in the industry, and I know that they would be happy to sit down and talk to me about it. So I thought it would be a great idea to get them on camera and see if that there a few people would say yes. And it's been lovely. I mean, I've had a lot of great feedback from everyone who I've sort of come across has been really positive about it. And it's not a show about, we're women and we're not bashing up on men. It's just about celebrating their achievements and showing that this is our industry, this is what can be done, this is where people have come from, and a lot of people find it very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It really is fantastic. What were your overall role, I guess, the aims when you first started out on the show? Did you think it would be where it is today?
My aim was always to just open up doors for people to look inside that racing bubble. I think sometimes it's hard to get involved in racing or know how to get involved in racing, but once you know people's stories and where they've come from, then you can also, it inspires people to be involved, and it inspires people to maybe take that path. Sometimes also I find it's a way of, you'll watch a jockey or you'll watch a person on TV and you don't really know them, and then you'll do a story on them, and then you feel connected to them, and therefore then there's that nice connection. So going forward, that opens up more opportunities for people to wanting to find out more and be more involved in racing. A story I did recently on Kathy Schmidt, and I knew she was a jockey, but I didn't realise the struggles that she went through to be a jockey, and the wasting and how hard it was on her body, but how much she wanted it. And I thought that was a really good story to tell, because a lot of people would have just said, oh, she's a jockey and she's, wouldn't have known how hard she had to do it. But because she wanted it so much, she put her body through hell. So I just think it's really important to where it is now, the show. It just tells those stories, those backstories. And Cassie's been around for years and everyone knows her. But does everyone really know what she went through? And that's what I wanted to get out of it.
Yeah, and it is really good to hear stories like that, and I think that's why the show's so nice to have. It just sort of gets that extra side that people perhaps don't know about. Now, women have obviously become such an influence in racing. Obviously, women such as champion trader Gay Waterhouse, jockey Michelle Payne, they really blaze the trail for women in this sport to be better recognised in a way. And look, how integral have women like Gay and Michelle been with what they were able to accomplish in their careers on some of the biggest stages in racing for women that are currently in the industry in multiple facets, so including yourself in broadcasting, but also with female jockeys, people working the stable stuff, and then now trainers as well. But in the future, what is your view? Like, do you think you'll love to see more women like that become not just part of the industry, but to really be the cream of the crop.
I feel that it's already happening. I look at a lot of the apprentice programs and I see the majority of the apprentice programs are women.
Mm.
I I think women have been in racing for a long time,
Yeah.
and they've been competing against. It's the only sport where they compete on a level playing field, women and men. But the the fact that women are becoming such trailblazers now in racing is something that I think has been put in place by people like Gay Waterhouse. I mean, she's been one of the pioneers. Betty Lane before Gay. There's so many women before. We're reaping the rewards now. I feel that there's
Yep.
so many women before Michelle and myself, and you look at Kim Moore as well. She's been a trailblazer in training racehorses. There's Angela Davies, who's a lesser known trainer, but she raised 2 children on her own and became a trainer. She recently just won the provincial championship. So there's many women who are doing it in their own way, and I guess that's why I wanted to show women in racing. That's another reason with women in racing. I wanted to be able to show those women and put them. Everyone knows who Gay is, everyone knows who Michelle is, but there's so many others who are integral parts of the industry who are making and paving their own way. So it's very important, and we need, as a whole world, is in a movement now of women becoming, their voices are being heard, and I think we're very fortunate the times we live in, and my girls will be even more fortunate when they grow up. But very important. Women, you want women to wager as well. You want women to have a bet. I mean, they're 50% of the population, so that's another reason why I do what I do. Lots of women like looking at horses. They like the aspect of looking at it. They don't want to know about numbers. They want to know about looks. So women are important for the whole world, full stop.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I personally do notice now on race days, because I mean I go quite often. I just love being around the racetrack, and even so when I'm back at the stables or if I'm just in the general public, I just notice that there is a lot more women now attending racing, which is exactly what I want to see. Not just on the big days either. Like just in you'll find a men's day meeting down here at Sandown. You'll still find a lot of women there, which is really what you want to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of women working. When I first started in a foreman's role, there weren't many women foremans, and then there was Claire Cunningham, who was a foreman for Peter Moody. There's so many now. There's Danielle, who's a foreman at John Thompson's. I mean, I'm probably missing a loads of people. I mean, you look at people down in Victoria. There's plenty of female trainers. Amy Yagi. There's a lot of women who are involved in racing per se, and it's a genuine reason. It's because they love the sport and they love what they do and they love the horse. And a lot of women also love having a bet. I've got plenty of friends who always ask me, "What are your tips?" They want to watch, but if they want to hear it from me, and if they don't hear it from me, they might hear it from Caitlin Mallion if Channel 7's on. So they want to hear women for women. That's just how some people are. So it's really important to have women involved, and it's important to open it up to everyone, not just women.
Yeah, definitely. Now, well, Lizzie, thank you so much. I could probably speak to you all day. You've really been fantastic with your time. Really good to hear your insights, obviously your thoughts and your story. We all love the work that you do on Sky Throughbred Central. I personally want to congratulate you on your career, from what you've had so far, and all the best with the future on what you are still going to accomplish. I still think you've got a lot more left in you. We look forward to seeing you on Sky Thoroughbred Central, the Mounting Yard, and of course on Women in Racing, which, as I mentioned earlier, is on at 9:30 on Thursday nights on Sky Thoroughbred Central. So thank you so much, Lizzie. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you once again. Look forward to perhaps having you on in the future again.
Thank you so much. I look forward to following your journey as well, Cody.
All right, thank you, Lizzie.